Hello everybody, this is VG Time back again with another deck profile. And this time, hot off the presses, we have the yellow Frieza Leader from set 12. This is a deck that, after playtesting with it, I could appreciate it a lot more. It wasn't a deck I was planning on building, but since I got all the cards, I said, hey, why not give it a try? And after doing my matches, I have some pros and cons about it, so I'll give you that at the very end of the deck profile. Now, I do make deck profiles every Tuesday and try to play them in my online locals every Thursday in the live stream. So if you like that, please join me on the Thursdays at 6 p.m. where I play the decks that I build. So, heads up, deck profile is going to take a while, a lot of new cards. I have timestamps down below for those of you that only want to see the deck itself laid out and don't really want to hear my opinions or why I chose certain cards and certain ratios. I could appreciate that. I know I talked for a while. But let's get into it. Frieza has two permanents. First being that if all your life is face up, you lose the game. And the way this happens is that that permanent says that if you would take damage, instead of adding that damage to your hand, you flip that many life face up. So that means that critical is less of a concern to us compared to other decks. But it also means that double and triple strike is no longer a plus to us like it is to the other decks, because you don't want so much life going up at once. Kind of want to measure out and just not take those big hits. The second permanent says that only mono yellow cards could flip your life face up, and that your face up life cannot be added from your life to your hand. That is also important because of Turles being a leader that could flip up your opponent's life. Has an auto when it comes into play that allows it to be able to play the themed fill spell that goes with it. And it awakens if it's at 5 or less life, and you can send out a themed fill spell to flip it over. Now, notice I said flip it over. There's no untapping, there's no drawing, none of that. On the back side, he has the same permanence as the front side, and he, instead of drawing on attack, has an activate battle that allows him to send a face-up card in your life to the drop to be able to draw a card, give him plus 5k, and double strike for the battle. Now, the second half of understanding how this leader works is the cutting edge recovery device. This is the theme fill spell. Good thing your leader plays it when you play it, because it does cost 10. It has barriers, so it keeps people from playing like that 2-drop Vegeta or whatever and getting rid of it. Has an auto once per turn, an activate main once per turn, and an activate main / battle, all of which are good. So let's just get into them. The auto once per turn says that when your life is flipped face up, you get to choose one of your opponent's cards and switch it to rest mode. This right here restricts the movement that your opponent really has on their turn. It punishes players that are not as experienced. For example, if they don't really pay attention to the card, they could charge their first energy, have a play in mind, but swing with their leader to get a card, and you could flip up your life, tap their energy, and then shut off that entire turn. Similarly, they could swing with a battle card first. You take the hit, you tap their leader, they don't get that extra card, things like that. Activate main once per turn. You can send one of your face-up cards that is in your life to the drop area along with one of your yellow Frieza's army to draw 2 cards. Then this is going to be the case for all the cards that have this effect. You could take one of your mono yellow Frieza's army in your hand or a yellow unison and put it face up in your life. So when I say take a card from your hand and put it face up, I'm referring to mono yellow Frieza's army cards in yellow unisons, so I don't have to repeat that over and over again. This helps you to cycle through those cards. That's why I said managing your life total and what you take, because as long as you could cycle through them properly, you don't really need a whole lot of face-up life, like maybe like 3 or so is about where you really want to be. Then it has that activate main / battle where you could send it to the drop area if you have 3 or more cards face up in your life to flip your leader over, and then take the top card of your life and put it into your of your deck and put it into your life face up. So that gives you like another card to use as a resource. So first things first, let's just go over this guy right here. This is Sorbet. Sorbet is your top 5 searcher. He's able to search for Yellow Unison with a specified cost of 2 or less. He's also able to search Yellow Frieza's army with cost 3 or less. So that's most of the cards in the deck. So he's not as limited as the Mize and stuff like that were. He has an activate main where you can pay yellow, put him into play, but his skills are negated. That helps you to have a target for the device to be able to send to the drop area along with your face-up life to cycle cards, and is very strong. So the cards that care about being face-up in your life. First is the Unison. So this has Rejuvenate, 15k 2-cost Unison, but has an auto that if it's face-up in your life and it's sent to the drop area, you get to put it directly into play with 1 marker on it. It also has a +1 that allows you to take a face-up card in your life, put it underneath it, put a card from your hand into your life, and then draw a card. So that way, you get to cycle those cards. You're not losing the resource of those face-up cards. It also fuels its own Rejuvenate that way. He's also one of the easier Unisons to rejuvenate with, since you could just pay 3 for him, activate his effect, and then remove 4 to rejuvenate him. And for those of you that don't know what Rejuvenate is, that's taking the top card of your deck and putting it into your life face down. So in essence, it heals you. Next up, we have 4 Frieza The Onslaught Begins and 4 copies of Frieza Trained at Last. They both have the same auto when they're face up in your life. If they're sent to the drop area, you can pay yellow to put them directly into play. So you get a 2-drop for 1, you get a 3-drop for 1. So let's just go into each one individually. The Onslaught Begins as a blocker, so that's good because again you don't want to take big hits. But it also has the ability when it comes to the play on your turn, you get to choose one of your opponent's battle cards on rest mode with a cost of 4 or less and KO it. So that's very powerful. And this guy right here, 19k Double Striker, so he at least allows you to put some pressure on your opponent. Has an auto that when your opponent plays a battle card, you can send one of your face-up life to the drop area to rest the card. Unlike the fill card or the Unison, he doesn't cycle that card, so you just straight lose that resource. So you kind of have to be careful with how you use them. Next up, we have 4 copies of Ginyu One Last Body Change. This guy right here is able to, when he comes to the play, send one of your face-up life to the drop area to draw 2 cards. Similar to him, he's not cycling the card. You just lose that resource forever. So you kind of, so as great of a card as he is, you kind of have to be careful with how you use him. 2 copies of Tagoma, Cold as Ice. This guy right here comes into play and draws a card as like, just play him, boom, draw a card. That's good enough. Then as an activate main, you can send him to the warp to take the face-up card in your life, put it to the drop area, play a card from your life into your hand, and draw a card. Then 2 copies of Frieza, same stuff, different day. He's kind of, I should have included him in the rest of this right here. He's a counterattack, so he negates the attack, comes into play. But if he's face up in your life, you're able to activate that counterattack from your life. So you can kind of just stow and negate away to use at any point. But similar to him, he doesn't replace himself. You just kind of just play him out your life, so you just lose a resource. 2 copies of Sasami Frieza Force Elite. This is a super combo that works with Unisons. That's a part of the cycle. And if your Unison has Rejuvenate, it goes underneath the card. He's live as soon as the Unison comes out, which is as early as turn 2, and you're able to super combo and draw a card. Then lastly, for the archetype cards, we have 2 copies of Frieza Divine Transformation. This card does a whole lot. Only run 2 of them because of how much cycling we have in the deck, so I always kind of see them. and I wanted to have space for other cards and try to keep it down to 50. So let's get into what he does. This guy has Deflect, Double Strike, and Blocker. Weird set of abilities, but the Deflect is important because it allows you to get around God Sealing Trunks. Double Strike allows you to put pressure, and being a blocker helps you to protect your life total. It has a permanent that says it cannot be removed from the battle area due to card skills, so you don't have to worry about charismatic villains spoiling your party. He just has to be dealt with pure attacks. His auto, when he comes into play, you get to choose all your opponent's battle cards in rest mode and KO them. So that's very powerful. If you're able to stave off like a large attack turn, you play this, deal with their entire board. You also get to flip one of your face-up life face down. So that allows you to heal, so to speak, since having all your life face up is the main way that you lose the game. And has a auto once per turn that says if your opponent activates a counter skill or counter attack skill, you get to choose 2 of their cards, switch it to rest mode, and they don't get to untap until the end of your opponent's next turn. So that's pretty important. Now, one last part about that first auto is that he restands at the end of the turn. So you get to swing with him, take advantage of his body, and then restand him and have him ready for blocking. Next, we're going to get into the cards that are not part of the archetype, but I think are important in order for the deck to run properly. First, kind of consensus as far as what the ultimate should be for the deck, which is Sin, Shenron, Negative Energy, Incarnate. Main reason being is that he is a blocker. He can multi-block, and he also can't be removed due to skills, so you don't have to worry about Charismatic Villain. He also has Deflect, so you don't have to worry about Trunks. And he usually only costs 1 or 2 energy to play. So he has everything going for him. Vegeta, Unison, and Fury. This could be a lot of things. Some people like the Gogeta Unison. Some people like other ones, but this is the one for me. This is good against so many decks right now because a lot of decks are cheating into play really large guys that they're trying to play early and beat you down with. Prime examples are the Gotenk Dual Attacker, the Dark Brolys, the Red Brolys. Even coming up, you're going to have the Janembas, things like that. And this guy basically says that they can't do that. He also acts as a backup finisher to the Frieza because you can -3 him, make him a 20k dual attacker with double strike, and get it on your opponent. And it might not seem like that's a lot, but you're not really giving your opponent a lot of cards at once. So sometimes you're able to just get through with that. We played Prideful Transformation at 3. Again, this is more like a room situation. If you wanted to play some of these guys at a lesser quantity, I guess you could and play this at 4. But he's live pretty quickly because the fact that Unison is free and most of the time and you can plus him 1. So you can have him ready as early as turn 1. You put him into play as your counter skill, and the card coming into play comes into play in rest mode. He's also a blocker, so he can help protect your Unison after that fact, or even protect your life total so you don't take the big hits. 2 copies is Zamasu, Sacred Disbelief. Just the best defensive super combo in the game. Taps leaders, taps battle cards. And all the tapping between this, the Zamasu, this guy right here, allows you to play Poutine for free. And Poutine taps cards that are played due to skills, or taps a card on a battle card on your opponent's side of the field. They play a card due to a skill, or activate a counter skill. So you can even tap other cards, not just the card being played. All that tapping helps also to play Bergamo, Ferocious Roar. One of the better cards to play on your opponent's turn to lock down their resources and prevent them from being able to expand their plays. 4 copies of Nimbus, because we don't want wide boards to just multi-attack us until we just die. 2 copies of Release from Evil, because this is our free counterattack, and it helps to blank those cards with the large skill sets, like large strikes on them. So even if a card can't be negated, it has like quad strike and stuff. Boom, just blank it. You're good. Uh, 2 copies of Frieza's Call. It gets you your draws, your searches, and your pop. And lastly, 1 copy of Cold Bloodlust. If you're playing Yellow Friezas, you're not playing a Cold Bloodlust. Um, I think that's wrong. You kind of have to play the card. So, conclusions. Um, the deck is really fun. I think it would be good on a local level. I don't think it's really hyper competitive. Um, one of the great things about it is that you get so much draw. You can see basically the entire deck. You're not going to be in a situation where you go, man, I played this whole game and never saw this card. That just going to never come up. Even with one else like Cold Bloodlust, I usually always see the card. Downside is that you need a dance partner. And your dance partner cannot be just sitting there not hitting you. If you don't get hit, you don't have resources. If you don't have resources, none of these cards work. Literally none of them work. So if you're playing against like the Bulma decks that don't really attack a whole lot early on, or like the Frieza's Prison, which for some reason is becoming more and more popular, you're just gonna have a hard time that entire game, because you're gonna maybe have 1 life up at the most, and then you won't be able to awaken properly, even at all, and your opponent's then gonna just take you down from whatever life total down to all your life face up and just kill you. So there's definitely weaknesses to the deck. Also, it's not really great with hand control, but it's okay. So, yeah, that's my thought on the deck. It's fun. It's cool. You'll be able to do some really shiny stuff, but I don't think it's like hyper competitive. If they allow me to, I will play it this Thursday at an online local. So stay tuned to the channel. I do stream again at 6 p.m. If anything changes, links are down in the description for my social. And this is VG Time signing out.